All right, so what's some of the history behind the breaks?
Okay, the park was formed in 1954. It was actually formed after a series of efforts to establish it as a national park and then as part of the national forest system fell through. So the people from both the Commonwealth of Kentucky and the Commonwealth of Virginia who were involved in trying to protect the land.
Right.
And of course, it's really protected because of the Russell Fork Gorge, which is the deepest gorge east of the Mississippi River. So after those initial efforts fell through, they came up with an idea of forming an interstate park where both the Commonwealth of Kentucky and the Commonwealth of Virginia would come together and manage the park. It had to receive permission from the 83rd Congress of the United States of America. Ever since the Civil War, the federal government has been a little cautious about agreements between states that they didn't give a blessing to. So after the federal government basically approved the agreement, both Kentucky and Virginia passed into their separate laws, a law establishing the Breaks Interstate Park Commission, and it was made official in 1954. The park opened with a huge ceremony with governors from both states, and ever since then we've been operating the park under that structure.
That's awesome. I didn't know that. So, what are some of the amenities the park offers?
Okay, we offer multiple overnight options. We offer 77 hotel rooms, 9 cabins, 132 campsites. We also offer a yurt, which is people use the term glamping, glamour camping. The yurt has running water, has an air conditioner. It's a camping experience for someone who basically doesn't have all the gear that's required. In addition, we have a restaurant, we have a conference center where we host multiple business meetings, weddings, that kind of thing every year. The restaurant does a bunch of special events in addition to just acting as a normal restaurant. It does a big Thanksgiving buffet. It does a brunch with Santa event in the Christmas season, things like that. We have an amphitheater where we have music every year. We're kind of right where the Country Music Highway in Kentucky intersects with the Crooked Road Heritage Music Trail in Virginia. So we have a lot of music events each year, folk music, bluegrass music, that kind of thing. Let's see, we have a visitor center, a museum with artifacts, Native American artifacts from local early settlers to this area. We have a cabin from the mid-1800s that was actually reconstructed right beside our visitor center using the original logs and materials. We have over 30 miles of hiking and mountain biking trails. On the Kentucky side, you have the trailhead for the Pine Mountain State Scenic Trail, which runs 125 miles all the way down to Cumberland Gap National Park. On the Virginia side, you have about 25 miles of mountain biking and hiking trails. We're actually doing several projects now to connect to both Elkhorn City and Hayside. Those were made possible through federal funding. We are starting to add a lot more adventure tourism-based opportunities. We have built within the past 3 years, since 2015, we've opened up rock climbing in the park and are actively developing different rock climbing routes, bolting, installing hangars for both traditional and sport climbing. We have established a zip line along the rim of the gorge. We operate a horseback riding stable where you can take guided horseback rides. Bought a fleet of canoes where we offer guided canoe trips on John Flanagan Lake. Just various adventure. We do elk viewing tours in both the fall and the spring.
Okay, cool. What are some of the events you all have, like seasonal and year-round? Like, do y'all have to do special stuff like during Christmas time?
We do, yeah. We offer various events throughout the season. You mentioned Christmas. We For one, well, this is not really events, but we host a variety of Christmas parties for different businesses in the area in our conference center. Some of our public events that unfold in December and early January are Brunch with Santa. We have that in our restaurant, mostly geared toward younger children, where they come in and we have a really nice brunch buffet. They can take pictures with Santa. Santa kind of mingles through the room and hands out treats to the kids. In January 1st, we do a first day hike. So we actually have a ranger-led nature hike, just encouraging people to, everybody makes New Year's resolutions. So we basically encourage people to get out into the outdoors, be physically active, awesome. Hopefully kindle a desire to start hiking as a new activity. Throughout the year, we normally, on our website, we maintain a really large calendar of events. Starting in the spring, we do this massive community Easter egg hunt that draws people from all over. We do a mixture of kind of like just more recreational events that are oriented around holidays and also educational events. So also in the spring is International Migratory Bird Day. Uh-huh. And so we have several local birding experts that take groups out and as the warblers and other birds from South America actually return north in the spring as the weather warms up. This area, because of its location on Pine Mountain, is just a tremendous migratory pathway. Right. For different species of birds coming up from South America. And so we have local birding experts, and we pair them with just our guests here, and they get to learn about the different species of birds. Some of them will actually pick up bird watching as a hobby. We do events for the 4th of July in the campground. We have a large car show that draws people from hundreds of people from everywhere, which is kind of odd for a park, but it's done in partnership with a local Kiwanis club to raise money for their efforts. We do haunted hay rides. We do a Halloween trick-or-treat event in the campground. So, just various events throughout the year.
Okay. What kind of wildlife is around the park?
So the park, again, was protected because it is really remote. It was very difficult to mine, very difficult to log, all that good stuff. So it honestly, there was a quote from one of the early writers back in the early 1900s that described it as an island of wilderness in a sea of coal mining operations at that time. So basically, it was protected just because, again, of the nature, the ruggedness of the topography. Because of that, the Breaks has served as kind of a sanctuary for a lot of local species of wildlife, even when they were hunted to extinction elsewhere. Going way back, elk and bison in the pre-early 1800s and on back would have been very prominent here. Bison haven't returned, but elk have, thanks to Kentucky and Virginia's elk restoration efforts. Lots of white-tailed deer. We have 5,000 acres of protected territory here, so even with hunting is allowed around the park, but not in the park. So it serves as tons of white-tailed deer can populate this area without hunting reducing their numbers. A good population of black bears. We've started getting complaints from the local area. Up until 2013, the park had not bear-proofed all of its trash cans and dumpsters. Right. And so we were having an increasing number of human-bear conflicts, never an attack, but we had tents destroyed, we had vehicles damaged, we had a Harley-Davidson turned over. A guy forgot that he had a honey bun in the saddlebag, and a bear basically ripped his saddlebag off and scratched up his paint, turned his bike over in the campground, in the parking lot of the lodge. And so we had to eventually bear-proof all of our dumpsters because it was becoming dangerous and there was a lot of property damage happening. Right. So when we did that, all of the bears that were really centralized here in the park spread out to our neighboring towns in Elkhorn City and Hayside, where the dumpsters are still open for them to be able to get whatever they want in a lot of cases. And so we're starting to get complaints from the surrounding communities that our bears here in the park are kind of spreading out and wreaking havoc in the surrounding area. So we have a really good population of black bears, all different species of migratory birds, a good population of different types of amphibians and reptiles, green salamanders, which were at one time considered possibly to be put on the endangered species list. They thrive throughout the park, really good populations of them here. So just various populations of animals and birds and insects.
Okay. Can you tell me about the unknown soldier's grave?
Absolutely. Yep. The unknown soldier's grave dates back to a gentleman who was one of the early settlers here in this area. He was a potter. So he was one of the, Richard Potter. I'm sorry, I couldn't think of the first name for a minute. But Richard Potter moved his family from North Carolina and settled in Elkhorn City. In the I'm thinking that the time period for his settlement was the late 1700s. So his family, grew up kind of in the area. Actually, his father originally moved to Elkhorn City in the late 1700s, and then in the mid 1800s, along about the Civil War era, Richard, Abraham Potter's son, actually moved onto park property. And claimed sections of park property, bought sections of park property. Of course, the park wasn't in existence at that time. But Richard was well known as I think the descriptions say, an herb doctor, which I'm not quite sure what that means, but local remedies out in the woods, that kind of thing. He was a moonshine distiller. He was just various various occupations. And so the legend goes that Richard had settled in an area known as Potter's Flats, which is on the Kentucky side of park property. The main thoroughfare through the gorge is extremely rugged, very difficult to get through. So there were really only a couple of ways through the gorge, and part of his property was on one of the main thoroughfares through the gorge. The legend of the unknown soldier is that basically a Confederate soldier was returning home to his, trying to get back to his family after basically deserting in the war and trying to come back and take care of his family. And Richard had actually warned him that he needed to kind of avoid the area of the gorge at night because it was a problem apparently at that time that people would lay in wait and then rob people at gunpoint as they would try to go through the gorge. So he advised them to try to go a different way or at least to wait till the next day. And Richard invited him to stay with him that evening to avoid having them to go through the gorge at night. Apparently this young man refused and continued on trying to get back home to his family, probably in Virginia, based on the way that he was headed. And the legend goes that he was basically set upon by some individuals who were lying in wait, robbed and murdered, and left beside the road. And that the Potter family actually buried him in that area, and records have been lost as to his identity. His family probably never knew what became of him, but since that time, it's been known as the unknown soldier's grave.
Right.
Yeah.
What's the busiest time of the year here?
Busiest month is definitely July. That's kind of prime season when most people are on vacation. We have seen a slow expansion. It used to actually be from basically Memorial Day to Labor Day, the park was busy. And then at other times of the year, the park was dead. Yeah. So we have seen an expansion based on a lot of the activities that we're offering. We're keeping our restaurant open longer. We're doing a lot more marketing, social media marketing. word is just getting out, word of mouth. Buzz around the park is increasing. So we actually start to see business start to increase in March, gets decently busy in April, and then May through October, it's really busy, and then it slowly dies in November. And December, January, February, those months are still very slow. But July, followed by probably September, and then June and October are our 4 most busy months.
Okay. What can we expect from the Breaks Park? Like, is there anything new coming?
Absolutely, yeah. There's what you can expect from us is that we're going to continue down the path of adventure tourism. We're going to continue to develop our climbing options. Next year, some of the things that we have planned is we are going to offer moonlit full moon zips. So you can go out on the zip line, by the light of the moon. Basically, we're going to offer guided rappelling trips. We've started working with a climbing outfitter to offer guided rock climbing trips. We've got grants out right now to fund a very large climbing wall. Where we're going to do introduction to climbing classes, and it will simulate natural rock. We think we know this. We just secured a grant to build a swinging bridge over the Russell Fork River to connect the Virginia trails, the 25 miles on the Virginia side, with the Pine Mountain Trail on the Kentucky side, with the broader goal of actually connecting the breaks in with the Appalachian Trail in Virginia. So the Pine Mountain Trail in Kentucky will be connected with the Appalachian Trail in Virginia via the Breaks Interstate Park. We are going to be offering overnight canoeing trips next year. So basically you would depart with your guide on a canoe, travel to kind of a remote camping area, camp overnight, and then return back the next day. And we're just going to continue along those lines, expanding our equestrian opportunities. We're working on a land acquisition right now in Kentucky near Elkhorn City, where what we would like to do with that land is right at the head of the Pine Mountain Trail. Right now we just own an acre there, so we have a little parking lot and a picnic shelter, that kind of thing, but we're working on acquiring a 175 acre tract that actually surrounds that little acre that we own right now. And what we would like to do with it is convert it into riverside camping for kayakers and boaters, equestrian campers for people who want to do horseback riding on the Pine Mountain Trail. And, again, just continue working with race organizers like the Breakdown Adventure Race, which is organized by 361 Adventures, the Breaks Ultra Marathon, which is organized by Next Opportunity Events. Those are just a couple of long-distance races that we offer in conjunction with our partners that we offer here in the park. And those are really good to bring out-of-town visitors into this area. And then those people come to run a 100-mile foot race on Pine Mountain, but then they return later on with their families just to enjoy the area.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Awesome. I think we got it. Thank you so much
All right,
for
you're
all
welcome.
your